everyone, my name is Tanya and today we are going to learn Java controlling statement. But these controlling statements are common in all programming language, not only in Java. So let's get started. Now as you can see there are three type of control flow statement, that is decision making statement, loop statement and jump statement. To understand which statement we should use at what cases and what situation, to understand this let's have an example. Let's say this is the time of class 10th and 12th board exams. If a student wanted to enter in the exam hall, the hall ticket is very important. If a student don't have his hall ticket, then he is not allowed to enter in an exam. So here, this condition that if a student is having his hall ticket, then he is allowed to enter in a class, otherwise he is not. So this is known as decision making statement, where we are deciding that whether we should allow the student to enter in a class or not. When it comes to looping statement, that we are going to extend the example to understand looping statement. Let's say there is an invigilator standing in front of a exam hall and checking if the person is or if a student is having his hall ticket or not. If the student is having the hall ticket, he is allowing the student to enter in a class. If not, then he is not allowed. So this is going to take place in a loop. That means again and again, repeatedly, this process is going to take until and unless all the student enter in a class for the exam. Who is going to do this situation repeatedly? The invigilator is doing this process repeatedly and checking if the student is having the hall ticket or not. Now, what is jumping statement? To understand this, let's extend our same example and say that only 10 students are allowed to sit in one classroom. So, for the student with the roll number 4 is absent. So, how students are going to sit in a class? Roll number 1, 2, 3. The student with the roll number 4 bench is going to be empty, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Why this is happening? Because we have used continuous statement. That means if a student is absent, we are still going to allow the student to enter in a class and sit in his place. And if we apply a condition that if any of the student in between the roll number is absent, then the student after that roll number are not allowed in the class, then that is going to be a break statement. That means we are not continuing our statement and other student to be seated in a class. Now, as we already know that what kind of controlling statement is used and when it is used, now it's time to look into the syntax of these decision making and all these statement that we are going to use in our programming. So let's get started and first understand if statement in Java. So there are four type of statement, if statement normal, if else statement, if else if, and nested if statement. So what is the syntax of this? Here you can see here, firstly, we have a variable storing a number 5 integer. In that, if is a statement, if a keyword, it is a keyword actually. After this will be followed by a parenthesis. Point to be noted here is that if is not a method, because whenever we write a parenthesis, we always consider that as a method or a function. But if is not neither a method nor a function, it is just a keyword, but its syntax is like this. So when we write if followed by a parenthesis, under there will be a expression or any condition. If the condition is true, then this is going to execute the code inside this body, that is a block, a curly braces inside it. So if this condition is true, this is going to execute this body. As you can see here, the number is storing 5 and the condition says if the number is greater than 0, then the code is going to execute. As you can see, 5 is greater than 0. Now this is going to be executed. And after the completion of this block, this is going to come out of this block and going to execute other body that is outside of this statement. Now, what is if else if? If the condition is true, then this body is going to execute it. If not, then else is going to be executed. The body and the block of else is going to be executed. As you can see here, the number is 5 and which says if number is less than 0, that means no, that is false, because 5 is greater than 0, but here it says 5 is less than 0, which is false. That means this block is not going to execute, rather it is going to execute this else part, and the body under else is going to be executed. If this block is completed, after this this is going to execute the body and the code after this block. Now here comes if else if. If the statement after this is true, then what will happen? Then this code of block is going to be executed, which is inside this if statement. But if this statement is not true, then what will happen? Then it is going to check else if, and if the body of this is true, then this is going to execute this if else block, else if block, and if this is also not true, then at the end it is going to execute this. But in case if the first statement is true, this is not going to execute any of the body after it. Further, it is going to be come out of this all entire if body and going to execute the code after the code outside the if statement. Now let us understand what is switch statement. To understand why we need switch statement even if we have this if statement, there is one advantage that you need to understand, that internally this switch statement maintains a jump table of all the cases. So what is the advantage of this jump table? Because whenever we have multiple or more many of the cases to be checked, then that is going to take internally so much time. So what happens and what is the advantage of this jump table is that whatever the case is matched with the expression. Like for example, there is a 100th case which is matched with this expression, then what happens after that, this is going to be check and verify in the jump table, and directly going to jump in that 10th 100 case, and that 100 case is going to be executed. So that is the one very important advantage of switch case. So now let us understand the syntax and how do we use. So firstly, there is going to be a keyword switch followed by a parenthesis. Inside this, there will be an expression. If this expression matches with the case value, then that particular case body or block is going to be executed. After that block is ended, break is very important. This break is going to play a very important role, because if we don't have this break after the completion of first case, then it is going to write the all the body of all the cases after that statement, which is going to be a very absurd output. So if we don't want that kind of absurd value, we always need to write break after completion of first case body. So here, if the first case body is not true, then any of the body which matches with the expression is going to be executed. If any of the cases is not true and not matched with the expression, then what will happen? Then the default statement is going to be executed. Now here comes the looping statement. So what looping statement are? The repetitive working of anything until and unless the condition is false is known as looping statement. So here we have three basic looping statement. First, while, do while, and for loop. So this while and for loop are known as entry loop, where do while is known as exit loop. Why it is? Because as you can see, there are test condition before execution of their body. If this condition is true, then only this body is going to be executed. But in do while, you can see this going at least this body of do is at least going to be executed once. And in for loop, you can also see that there is some initialization, test condition, and update is also required. If this is test condition is not true, then this body is also not going to be executed. That's the reason why for and while are entry loop and do while is an exit loop, because there's a test condition for the exit from this do loop. So now let's understand the syntax of this. So here, while is a keyword followed by a parenthesis. Here, under this, there will be some condition. If this condition is true, then only this is going to enter in this loop body. And is some condition written inside an if. If this condition is true, then this is going to execute this while loop. And this is going to repeat until and unless this is false. And similarly, there is a for where there is some kind of initialization, then there is some test condition, and after this test condition is true, this is going to enter in this body, and If this condition is going to true, then this is going to update this for loop, where this there will be some increment or decrement on some initialized value, and until and unless this is going to be false, this is still going to be executed, this to code. After the completion of this, there comes the very important loop, that is exit loop. Here comes the keyword do, followed by a block with a curly braces. Here you can see there will be some code which is going to be executed, and if this condition is true, then only this is going to be execute this while and going to check this condition. If this is not true, then this is come out of this loop and execute the body out of this loop statement. About decision controlling statement and looping statement that we have studied, but in between when we were studying if else or switch or do while for loop, we have seen some of the very important keyword, that is break and continues. As of now, you might have understand that what we are using and why we are using these are used to break or continue this particular statement out of the body or inside the body. That is a very important use. But this is whatever we have studied today is just the very basic glimpse of the topic. In further lecture or video, we are going to learn the implementation and coding of this concept. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.